Yo, what's good, Mearabloggers? Tonight I've got on a former Buckeye legend, and a former Cleveland Brown as well. LeCharles Bentley joins me. LeCharles, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Paul?
Yeah, not much. But what's been recently good with LeCharles? What have you been doing recently?
Well, ever since I left the game abruptly, I've been very busy, man. I obviously had to get over the health hurdle and got myself together finally, and now I'm dabbling into the media world and having a good time with that. I've been everywhere from the Big Ten Network, done stuff for AOL, ESPN, all over the place, just trying to get my feet wet and try to feel my way through the whole media outlet. But I've really been able to now dive into creating my own, because just on my experience from the radio side of things, the written side of things, I like to have my own voice and be able to do things my way. So my new site, lbentleyradio.com, has been doing really well, and that's really been taking up the bulk of my time. So between my new site and my gym, I train offensive linemen in the National Football League, high school, collegiate players, things of that nature. So I'm pretty busy, man, that I think about it. Once you start kind of articulating, sounds like a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you've got, I've heard your radio show. It's phenomenal, and I know you got a lot of really cool guests. I like how you have guys on ESPN on it and talk about football, because it's kind of interesting. Like, you have the guys who usually are used to interviewing the artists, or not the artists, but the players, and you're like, it's like flip the book a little bit. Tell me about the radio show and just different guests you've had on. Maybe just like what's been that experience like, after being in the league for a while.
One thing I always say, Paul, is it's no fun when a rabbit had the gun, and now I have the opportunity to have the gun. I'm no longer the rabbit. So it's pretty, cool to sit back and interview individuals like Peter King or John Clayton, Andrew Brand, folks like that are really heavy hitters in the media world, and have an opportunity now to ask them the question. It's fun. It's a bit of a learning curve that takes place. Very similar to you in the sense that you have an opportunity to interview a lot of former hip-hop artists and former hip-hop greats and things of that nature. So for me, folks like Peter King, they're my Eric B. and Rod Kim. That's my hip-hop legends. Like, oh, my God, I'm talking to Peter King. As a player, it's kind of like, man, that's Peter King. Oh, God, here he comes. What the hell does he want? But now you're on the flip side of the fence. It's like, yo, that's Peter King. You get an opportunity to speak to him. It's pretty cool. So it's been fun, man. Real fun. Yeah,
speaking of like former Buckeyes and hip-hop artists, I always hit up D. Miller on Twitter sometimes, because he's always talking about like New York hip hop. It's like, this guy knows so much about this. Like, he's talking like done slang with me. I'm like, this is crazy. But anyway, let's talk football.
God, man.
Let's talk football a little bit. You played for the Browns, and it's been a tough season for them so far. It's not like that's any different than seasons recently for them, so it's not like anyone's surprised. But McCoy's had his ups and downs. Greg Little's shown some flashes as a good pickup. Later on. Where do you believe the Browns are, the current state of them, and is there any encouragement for this team?
I think the encouragement comes in the fact that this is one of the youngest teams in the National Football League, and that's encouraging. That's one of those things where you kind of look back and say, well, there's talent, there's youth, and there's leadership, so at some point they got to get it right. And I think they're not close to getting it right, but they're at least taking steps in the right direction to get the ship righted. And it's been one of those things that you look back over the years and you realize that the leadership hasn't always been there, but it appears to be a foundation that's in place. It appears to be that everybody's on the same page. Regardless of at this point, I agree or you agree or anybody agrees with the page they're on, at least they're all on the same page.
Right. And, a lot of things also going down for your alma mater this week. Not only is it Michigan week, but, the Dispatch has actually reported today that, Urban Meyer is going to be the next coach of Ohio State. The terms aren't all being worked out, but if this does become it, do you think this is a good move for Ohio State moving forward? Because I kind of been an outspoken critic about it, but do you think this is a good move for Ohio State, moving forward, the program?
Boy, it's an ass-saving move.
Yeah, you can say that. Right.
It's ultimately a good move. Yeah, I mean, it's going to save Gene Smith and Gordon Gee's job, that's for sure. Yeah, if they're able to land them there, that's going to be the big catch and keep folks interested and excited and make those guys, and when I say those guys, Gene Smith and Gordon Gee, kind of irrelevant because of everything that's going on. They've been in the forefront, and wrongfully so. As an athletic director, as a president, you don't want to be in the news. And when you're in the news, there's usually something wrong. But with a landing of an Urban Meyer becomes a story. And once he becomes a story, those guys become irrelevant, and they want to go back to being irrelevant and working behind the scenes. But as far as the impact on the football program itself, look, the man is a winner. He's probably, between you, myself, and two other people, we might have him down in the consensus of the top 3, top 4 coaches of all time in college football's history. So is he going to win? Yeah, he's going to produce. That's without a doubt. But if you look at his track record, he's had issues with players off the field, and that's where it becomes a little sketchy for me in the sense that I'm just not sure what he's going to bring. I know he's going to bring in a win-loss column, but Ohio State has always purported itself to be something bigger than college football, the North Star, so to speak, of college football, the shining example of what intercollegiate athletics are supposed to be about. And once you start having your name in and out of the paper for off-the-field issues, that becomes tarnished.
Do you think it was more of an ass-saving move? Because, I think it, like you said, it could be getting them out of the, those guys out of the spotlight. But you think that was more the motivation rather than actually the right coach or the right fit for, maybe, because I was thinking of a guy maybe like Mike Antonio or something like, just like somebody that actually kind of fits in with Ohio State. I don't even know if Urban Meyer fits in. Is that maybe what it was, more motivated by that?
Yeah, man, he's a sexy pick. Urban Meyer is a sexy pick. If you look back, he's articulated that he wasn't quite interested in coaching at all. He was happy in the booth. Remember, he had the health issue. His heart wasn't quite all the way together. He wanted to spend time with his family. So that sounded like a man that was fully retired. But here comes Ohio State with their offer, and here he is now thinking, this may not be that bad. So when you really start putting 2 and 2 together, Urban Meyer was the one that was going to save the day. He's the one that's going to save them from this PR nightmare because, I said, it's going to be such a powerful impact potentially that's the story. Everything else becomes irrelevant. The whole Buckeye Nation, as they call it, they're going to be too excited about landing an Urban Meyer. Remember back when Coach Tressel first took the job, nobody freaking cared. It was like, who? Ohio State? Are you serious? This guy, Ohio State? Nah, this don't even work. But Urban Meyer, coming from what he's come from in his resume, is like, we're lucky to have him. We're fortunate to have him. And since we're so fortunate, we're not going to worry about everything else because we got Urban Meyer out today.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good critique. And speak about maybe like the Luke Fickell team we got now. It's been tough. I think people expected it to be a tougher type season. Whether they beat Michigan or not, it's still been difficult. What do you think have been the problems or maybe the reason that they've had such a big problem this season?
Boy, off the field, guys can't focus. There's so many things that were going on off the field that those guys, I don't believe, are fully focused. It's very difficult for a football team to go through what they went through and be able to go out there and put out a good product week in and week out. And it showed up. These are kids we're talking about. These aren't, millionaire athletes that are part of their job requirements to put up with BS. These are just kids, man. These are babies. They're big babies, but they really are still kids at heart. And that was a lot. There's a lot to deal with. I remember when I was in school and we went through the transition between Coach Cooper and Coach Tressel. I was like, oh my God, we're getting a new coach. It was like so freaking dramatic. And this was while we were in good NCAA standings, but imagine all of that that took place with the NCAA and blah, 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 blah. Then you get a new head coach, a great legendary coach like Jim Tressel was let go. And I can only imagine how traumatic that was for those players. So that trauma showed up on the football field. Yeah,
I mean, I think, back in those days, the early 2000s, Ohio State wasn't quite at the standing it is now in terms of like on the national stage. So I think this is, I mean, they've always been one of the better programs. It's just the fact that, Tressel has brought them to a level where it's, they are one of the top 3 programs in the country. So this sort of thing is like that. Now, it also, I mentioned earlier, it's Michigan week, and I got to get your prediction on the score. Now, you went 2-2 against Michigan. Yep. So, what do you think about, their chances? It's in Ann Arbor, so that's tough. But I don't think that, people have given up on this Buckeye team yet. I mean, they beat Wisconsin, so, I mean, they can beat good teams. They almost beat Nebraska. So what kind of chance do you give them, and what do you think the score is going to be?
It's going to be the typical Michigan-Ohio State game. Once this game comes around, wins, losses, statistics, who's at quarterback, who's at running back, who has the most future NFL talent, all of that stuff goes out the window because it's the Michigan game. It's such an emotional game. Every player on that football field has to understand, and they usually do understand that it's really an honor to play in that level of collegiate history. It's not just a game. That's history that you're a part of. And that's an honorable thing. That's a noble thing. That's something that you can always tell your kids about, whether or not you make it to the NFL or whether or not you end up going on to be a collegiate All-American. It doesn't matter. You played in the Michigan-Ohio State game. So how it's going to play out? Typical, hard-fought game. And what will the ultimate score be? I don't know. You just never know, but I do understand that Michigan can score. Ohio State, they're struggling scoring. But once I throw in the emotion of it, the magnitude of it, it could be a low-scoring game, but once I throw in the emotion of it and the magnitude of it, Ohio State could get blown out.
Yeah.
So I just don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a little bit more of an interesting game, seeing as how Ohio State isn't as good as they were and Michigan's better. So it's definitely going to be more interesting than 42-7 or 42-3 from what we've seen. So it's definitely, on paper, it's going to be probably a closer game than we've seen, no matter who wins the game. So I definitely think it's going to be an interesting one. But anyway, LeCharles, thanks a lot for coming on Mearablog Podcast. Please visit lbentlyradio.com. Definitely a great website. He's got a lot of great guests. Anyway, thanks a lot.
I'm trying to be like you, man. I'm trying to be like you. I'm trying to be like you.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed some cool guys, definitely. I'm a big hip-hop fan, so
I noticed.
That's a big part of it. But anyway, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
No worries, man. Anytime. Let me know.